Hello everyone, and welcome to a very new edition of the Misfits Racing League action. We are here today for a very different style of racing action. I'm joined by none other than, well, my good Australian friend Mr. Stars for this evening's America's Tier 2 Division racing action. How you doing today, Stars?
Strifium, the clock finally struck zero. We are in the comms booth. My sir, I am so happy. I'm thrilled to be here alongside you, especially for this Marina Bay street circuit in downtown Singapore. I am stoked for it. Should be an absolute blinder.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. 23 turns, 5 kilometers. Of course, Singapore, the Marina Bay circuit is just, it's a lot of fun to drive this circuit. You have that very intricate Sector 3 filled with 90-degree turns. You have that flowing Sector 1 into Sector 2. It's just a great circuit, in my personal opinion. I like it quite a bit. But before we go, of course, into the grid, just a moment to take a look at the calendar. So this is a division that we're looking at introducing maybe next season. And of course, with that, starting this week in Singapore, this group of drivers is going to follow through with the remaining rest of the calendar. So that means we're going to be going to Russia next week. Following that, Japan, the United States, Mexico, Brazil, and then Abu Dhabi. And of course, big shout out to our fantastic partners, Next Level Racing. You can visit their website via the link in the YouTube description down below. Now, with that being said, of course, time to get into business and take a look at who is lining up on this grid today. From first on the timing standings all the way down to Gazieg in 20th position. Not timing standings, of course, but the driver's standings here. We have King Mac, Paula, we have Cheery, as well as Spinini, Sidewinder, Jack 5, we have Simply, Babatandi, as well as Jacob, Duffield, Duke Kaboom, Wordad, Jimsy, Captain Miner, Larkin, Boltzmann, Turtle Rave, Polo Q, as well as Civics, and Gazieg. Now, you might see some drivers you're familiar with from the Americas Tier 1 division, which I guess we'll have to be calling it now, or the Americas division. And that is because, well, Ghazi's stepped down and he's come into this Tier 2 division. He's kind of running things and making sure that this division runs nice and smooth. And that's something you love to see here, and we're just about ready to go racing. But of course, with that, there's a couple of drivers who are still acting as reserves in the Americas division here. You may see them. This is a kind of a exhibition grid. The standings and things will be tracked, but it's not playing into the combined constructors as the other grids of the MRL do. Now, we do have 20 drivers here. Clock is ticking, and we are just about ready to go into this 18-minute qualifying session, 50% distance racing action around the Marina Bay Street Circuit. And we are going to have that dynamic roll of the weather here, Stars.
Yeah, we certainly are, Striff. Obviously, around October time when the race is normally on, there is about a 45% chance of rain. So, obviously, hopefully the drivers today have got their wet weather practice in. Obviously, Singapore, like you did mention, very fast flowing, very tricky, very technical. I do remember actually reading a little post from a few years back. I don't know if you remember it as well. I remember Sebastian Bourdais and Fernando Alonso were mentioning how high the curbs are around this circuit and how dangerous they can be, obviously in the dry, so let alone the wet. So hopefully the drivers can set up their cars accordingly for the race tonight.
Well, so far it's looking quite clear here around the Marina Bay Street Circuit here in Singapore, and that's something that these drivers will be happy to see. And I'm actually seeing intermediate tires selected. Am I
Mhm.
mistaken?
You aren't, so we have got a wet quali session.
Wow, we do have wet, and I just could barely see the rain here as it's very bright in this circuit, in this pit lane. Once these cars get going on circuit, of course, we'll have to see how they fare. Just getting a look at the weather right now. So we have light rain through the entirety of this qualifying session, and I do believe we're going to see the race session dry for this campaign.
Wow. So it's going to certainly make something interesting, especially when the drivers are going to be probably setting up for a dry setup. Obviously, the race is more important than qualifying, so dry setups for these drivers today. Wet qualifying, they're going to have to be mindful of. obviously their qualifying laps, you just see Jack 5 coming out of the pit lane there, obviously losing the rear end straight away. So already they're starting to struggle.
Yeah, and we can see that it is a lot more wet than I was originally given the indication. And here we can see Jack 5 first out of the pit lane in that Red Bull. See some drizzle coming into the cockpit and some spray coming off the tires at the lower end here and at the top end. And, well, it's just a very, very large circuit here. Marina Bay, one of the longest circuits on the calendar. And even more so in these wet conditions.
Oh, certainly right, Striff. I mean, it's, as you mentioned, 5.06 kilometers, 3.147 miles. Drivers are on about 49% full throttle, 70 gear changes per lap. I mean, realistically, it is so demanding. This circuit's probably the most demanding on the calendar. I do actually remember there was a stat which came out a couple of years ago saying the Formula One drivers lose about 3 kilos every race around here. So hopefully these drivers in the happy space of home aren't going to be losing that amount of kilos around here. But yeah, certainly very tricky.
Definitely tricky. One thing to note, Turtle Rave, one of the Haas drivers, has overtaken Jack 5, and as I say that, Jack 5 appears to have had a disconnection issue. We'll try to get him back into session, but Turtle Rave should be the first driver to get us going with a flying lap, and, well, we'll just have to see how he fares in these light rain conditions.
Yeah, as he banks around turn number 23 there, you saw him do a little burnout to begin his first flying lap. So our first flying lap of the session in the Americas Tier 2 grid just before the 50-meter board mark of turn number 1, turn number 2 there. Obviously really not a turn. Turn number 3 uses all of the exit curve available for Turtle Rave here in the Haas car today, all the way up to turn number 5. You can attack the curbing on entry there and exit. As you can see, he loses the rear end very, very squirrely out of there. Coming through turn number 6, obviously full throttle all the way down here. DRS is not available for the drivers today, so we are expecting to see some very slower times than expected, and actually does invalidate, sorry. So already you can see that the drivers are really struggling around here, Striffian.
Yeah, driver behind him next up to set a potential lap time here, Stars, is the Ferrari driver of Cheery 2008. And he'll be flying for the Scuderia right now, maybe trying to look for a potential cheeky toe off of the former flyer of Turtle Rave. He's dropped that lap and pulled over completely now.
Yeah, he certainly has as he comes through probably the trickiest part of the lap, obviously just past the Singapore Sling, I do believe it's called, onto this back straight all the way down into turn number 15 again. Drivers get up to normally in the dry about 310 kilometers an hour, brakes very, very early. These drivers are just trying to set a couple of banker laps at the moment. I expect the fuel loads are going to be a little bit higher than normal. They're just obviously going to be improving every lap, but as you come through the 90-degree corners through sector 3, probably the easiest to hit the wall around this section, Striff, but as you can see, Cheery is managing it quite well, very cautiously though. Obviously just wants to get that lap time on the board there. Does lose the back end a little bit. Well, I mean, a lot there. Actually has to recorrect the car. Actually hits the wall as well. But, I mean, needless to say, it's going to be a lap. It's going to be a very high lap. But, I mean, it's going to be a 1:55 flat to begin proceedings for America's Tier 2.
WG right behind him, a 54.719 Babatunde. A 55 flat, but by about 600ths quicker. Spanini, the other Ferrari now, 55.827, and he's a little bit off in comparison to where Cheery landed himself for the Scuderia. We have Duke Kaboom flying into provisional pole, a 153.826. And to take a look at that gap, that is just shy of 9/10 ahead of the other front row sitter in Will Gibson presently. Captain Minor goes 5th quickest, and he ran a 155.288 here, Stars.
He certainly did. And on board with the Holtzman as he comes around turn 22 and turn 23. You know, the champion who got the win in the Americas division goes into P2 with a 154.3. So already he's putting his mark down in this grid.
Yeah, very nice time from him, and this will be a grid where we see Thultzman at a very, very high end of it, the tip of the spear end of it, if I have my math correct, and his times, I've fought him in America's Tier 1, of course, and he's a crafty driver, and who could say he isn't after what he did in Hungary, taking that win with the proper tire switch. Paula comes 9th quickest as Simply moves into 2nd. The Renault driver, a 54.271.
He certainly did as he drifted around the final corner there. Steph gets over the line in the McLaren, 154.7. So this grid is already pretty tight. Simon Woody goes over the line as well in P number 9, 155.6.
Ooh,
And we had Polo, who's actually crashed just before the start, finished straight to set his first flying lap, and he is out. Strip him, he is gone.
Yeah, we were able to see just a little bit his car there. Ooh, now we can see it. Baba goes into 2nd position. Now Duke Kaboom, Turtle Rave pushes Duke Kaboom at a provisional pole. Turtle Rave says it's my turn, a 53.772 coming from the Haas driver, and that's a very nice time to be setting following the crash of his teammate in this session, Stars.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the way you want to begin proceedings, obviously, for both McLaren and the Haas drivers out there today, as Captain Minor crosses the line for his 2nd lap at the time. He does improve by 1.3 seconds, only 1.4, goes into P number 4. So obviously, like we said, the drivers are going out there with high fuel loads, trying to get some laps in, and they'll probably come in with maybe about 6-7 minutes left to go and put the last set of tyres on for their last couple of runs.
One driver here in Gazieg, 13th position, 55.840. Still not in the top 10 in this Tier 2 division. Gazieg dropping out of the Tier 1 division after he couldn't hack it in his rivalry with myself, if I'm being realistic. And he'll be in the Williams for this division, and I just needed to get that in here in the first race of this division, so it's been said. And I'm just going to hand that back over to you, my good friend Stars.
As Paula crosses the line, she improves, so once again goes into P10. So obviously, at the end of the day, qualifying is very important, like we do know, ladies and gentlemen. But as Sidewinder actually gets a very, very quick time onto the board, actually 6/10 over Turtle Rave, so that's provisional P1 for him. But yeah, like we did mention, the drivers out there, high fuel loads, wanting to just get some laps in at the end of the day. As qualifying I mean, it is kind of important, but it's not normally, as Will Gimson actually takes provisional pole back from Sidewinder. Obviously, being a wet quali means the drivers can start on whatever compound they want. Softs wear off very, very quickly around here, Stryfium. They normally last about 4, 5, 6 maybe laps. So I think the majority of the grid might even potentially just start on the mediums and go for the one-stop, medium to hards.
It's a very, very unique strategy call here, and the intermediates really presenting us with no clear indicator of what these drivers in the top 10 are going to go on. It's quite common for the back 10 to go on the harder compounded tire. You even see some of the mediums in the top 10. We'll just have to see now. It's going to be, a straight tire choice for everybody. They're going to have free choice of dry tire. A long race here around Singapore as well, and as you said, the softs, it's just those tires wear so quickly. Larkin now coming through into the penultimate turn.
Larkin, like you said, Mensch comes around turn 22, turn 23 to set his first flying lap of the session, goes into P number 10 there. So a couple of drivers who haven't set times yet. Jack Fired, Siffy, Werdad, obviously some invalidations coming out. Very easy to invalidate around here, Striff. Obviously, you got turn 2 there. You want to try and take the straightest line possible. Very easy to invalidate. Then you have, say, turn 5 if you take too much curbing. Turn 7, as we saw, I think we're on board with the Turtle Rave on exit there through the curbing. So even though it's a street circuit, still very easy to invalidate.
That's right. Very easy to invalidate. One driver who's not looking to invalidate right now, looking for the first run, is Siffy in that Williams. Just coming out of turn 15 here. Now, of course, no DRS in this session. This is a DRS zone in the dry. Coming down into turn 16, the right-hander. Trying to get that car broken down in time to make the turn before sliding potentially into that wall. Fortunately, no rain forecast for the race, and these drivers won't have that issue. Now we're making our way through Sector 3. Of course, so many 90-degree turns through this sector. It makes me think of Sector 1, of course, in Azerbaijan. And now through turn 21. Coming into turn 22. Penultimate now 23. The final turn for Siffy, and this will be good for second position. Good for the front row. It's a 52.762. Well, and at least one Williams is doing some solid work today here, Stars.
Yeah, 100%. We did actually have a bit of an issue coming out of turn number 18. We had Werdad and the Holtzman actually come together. Both, I believe, lost their front wing, so they're going to be crawling back to the pit lane currently. So already drivers are starting to have some tangles even in the qualifying session, let alone the race. So if this is anything to go by, the race might be a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. This will be the first opportunity a lot of these drivers have had to really get onto the grid with one another. And this grid is going to be full damage, strict corner cutting, and the whole 9 yards, all the bells and whistles of all the normal MRL racing action that we hold on a regular basis. So these drivers really getting thrown into it. Trial by fire, I believe is the phrase. Singapore, not for the faint of heart. 20 drivers lining up on this grid. We've got 2 drivers now out of qualifying. We have 5.5 minutes remaining in this session. Duke Kaboom making his way through Sector 3.
Yeah, I think this is obviously the time where the drivers are going to start to come in and get prepared for their final runs. But yeah, like you did mention, Duke Kaboom, sorry, is obviously coming through the last couple of corners now. It has been a pretty tidy lap there. Should hopefully propel him up the standings a little bit. I don't think he's going to be battling for P1 or P2, but he should get an improvement. He does by 5.5 tenths to P number 6 for the Racing Point driver. I think most drivers are currently on out laps at the moment. I don't think there's many who are setting lap times currently.
Checking in with one driver who might be on a run here. I believe the Renault of Babatundi coming down through into the sling, and well, we'll just see what he's able to do in this car. Looking to improve on a 53.874.
Goes awfully close to the wall there, coming out of the sling, and nearly hits it again on the inside there at turn number 15. So, I mean, he doesn't seem the confidence in the car in the wet weather conditions. Hopefully in the race it might be a different scenario, as we do have a couple of drivers who are currently joining back. Obviously we've had some disconnection issues there for Jack 5 and also the Holtzman, but needless to say, Bubba, he's putting his lap together at the moment. He's getting very close to invalidation there. Actually touches the wall ever so slightly. So, I mean, he's really seems to be struggling as he goes underneath the grandstand tunnel there. Obviously really revving the car out, as you can see on your telemetry. So, be interesting to see if he does improve on his time, or is he just going to call it? Yeah, he's going to call it coming to the pits, put the last set of tyres on, get the low fuel levels into the car and get prepared for the last run.
One driver I'm checking in with now, Will Gibson. He's on a worn set of intermediate compound tires. He's just running multiple laps on the set of tires, it would seem.
Yeah, he certainly is coming through the 5 to turn at number 7. 700 meters down to turn number 7. Striffim. Obviously, the drivers engaged well over 300 kilometers in the dry here, with a lateral G-force braking of 4.9 actually. So it's a very, very interesting overtaking position here. Most drivers, I dare say, will be looking for an overtake into turn number 7, as Duke Kaboom actually goes into P number 2 there for the Racing Point on his multiple runs. But as we can see, Will Gibson coming through the Singapore sling currently here. It does look like a very tidy lap. We do have the Ferrari in Sector 3 slowing down. That is our Sector 3 yellow flag. But as Will Gibson manages to get through the Sector 2, I mean, intricacies quite nicely, as he comes all the way down into turn number 16. It's apparently a purple middle sector Striffim. He's up by 3.5 tenths. This could, if he holds his sector 3 together, this could put him onto provisional pole. He needs to make up 4 tenths though into this final sector. Maybe this is where he's been struggling recently, as he comes down all the way into the probably about 80 meters before the braking zone there. Does handle it quite nicely. Like we did mention, the 90-degree corners, even though they are quite easy, they can be also tricky to especially be fast around here. Doesn't use all the exit curb available for him. Comes up to turn 23, goes down one gear, touches the brakes ever so slightly through turn 23. Over the line, it's in P2. He's only 10 milliseconds, 10 thousandths off Jimsy there for P number 1. So a great lap by Will Gibson. And looks like he's actually called it quits. He's got the AEST off, so I think that is him done for the session.
Very nice lap from him, getting himself into that second position. Captain Minor in the AlphaTauri now looking to improve on a 53.554. Just making his way into
Only up by
sector 3.
5.5 tenths, Drift.
See what he's able to do with the rest of this section of circuit now.
Very tentative on the throttle there, obviously in the wet weather conditions, but I mean, needless to say, he's keeping it pretty clean. I think he's got a little bit more on the table there. He's being very, very cautious at the moment. He needs to improve on his time at the moment to really propel him up there, and he does. But only it's one position, but it's still nearly a half a second improvement by Captain Minor.
A solid improvement there for him. Gaziag right now, he's on the move, as are a few other drivers. Jack 5
He needs to be on the move. P16 at the moment. He's not going to be happy with this. America's Tier 2 grid. He should be battling for podiums at the moment here. Maybe that's why he did drop down strip him. But anyway, he does cross the line. It is an improvement, but it's P15. Well, nearly a 1 second improvement there. So he might be going again for his final last run.
Well, I'll tell you something. Just seeing this man set a qualifying lap, I'm sure as you've been commentating the entirety of the Americas this season, seeing him set a qualifying lap in itself is just fantastic.
It's an improvement.
Definitely. Now, a lot of drivers on runs. I'm trying to find who's going quickest here. Jimsy, of course, he's currently sitting on provisional pole, a 52 flat.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be really battling him for pole. Siffy, I don't think is going to make up 7 tenths in this final run. I mean, needless to say, Will Gibson's out of it. He won't have enough time for another run. He's called it quits. Obviously, no ERS, but Jimsy, like I said, gets very throttle heavy coming out of turn number 15. But still, apparently, he's purple sector 2 goes very deep, though. 1.5 tenth improvement. I think that's all going to be done and dusted after braking very late out of turn 16. But needless to say, I think Jimsy's got a provisional pole on his hands, as the checkered flag has flown. So this is it. It's through him.
Yeah, that gap to Will behind him, just 100th of a second. Will not going to be happy he wasn't able to catch that AlphaTauri for pole position here. Captain Minor. Third position for him. Very solid run. And Jimsy now coming across the line. A big slide. No improvement from him. And that's a little bit hard to see at the end of the session. Cheery looking to move up quite a bit here.
Gaziag is currently improving on his time there. P15, though, still hasn't improved on that one. Obviously, these last flying drivers are coming through. Jack 5 has called it quits. He's into the pit lane here. We have the Racing Point of Wordad, who goes up into P number 10 there. The next Ferrari driver to come across the line is Cheery, but he also doesn't improve. Who else we got there? We've got Larkin, who's coming across the line. He improves by 1 position into P14. The Renault as well on top of that gets across the line. And then the Mercedes. Will Gibson takes back pole. Oh my goodness. I did not see that strip him. He has taken back pole position to conclude the qualifying session. I mean, we do have Paula still on a lap here. She's coming around the... Oh no, she's actually invalidated, unfortunately. But Will Gibson, he's run no ERS in the first sector. Maybe that was his trick, I don't know, but he's got in pole position, taken it back from the AlphaTauri driver, putting the Mercedes on the front step. Wow, what an outing for Will Gibson.
Yeah, we thought he was done, and he's managed to come through here and take this pole position. Not provisional anymore, it's pole for Will Gibson now. The AlphaTauri is 2-3, Duke Kaboom 4th, Civics in 5th. Wow. As you said, what a session this has been.
Yeah, I mean, I say it every week in Americas because it is so good to see the battling going on between the drivers there. But I mean, if qualifying's anything to go by, the race is going to be interesting. Obviously, we've got a 1 second margin from first to 10th, and I mean, it is pretty tight around there. So I'm expecting to see some really, really heavy racing. But unfortunately, Wordad has actually picked up a 5 position penalty going into the race. So he's actually going to be starting in 16th, Striff. So obviously, I think that was that issue with the Holtzman, which I mentioned about halfway through qualifying.
That's unfortunate for Wordad. Of course, it's Will Gibson on pole position, a 52.058. Jim Z lining up next to him on the front row in the AlphaTauri, just shy of 300s on the rear of the British driver. Of course, we have Captain Miner here in third position, the other AlphaTauri driver, and then with Duke Kaboom and Sifix rounding out 4 and 5, we'll go through the rest of this grid on the formation lap. And before we jump into formation, just a massive shout out to our partners, Next Level Racing. Of course, you can check them out via their website. The link is down in the description below. They have some amazing sim racing rigs, light rigs, motion sims, as well as, of course, meal stands. So they can really help you take your racing to the next level with some awesome quality products, whether you're a beginner or an advanced user. They've got what you need. With that being said, now, all these drivers loading into now this 50% distance race action. It is the Marina Bay Street Circuit, the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm joined here by Stars from Australia. My name is Strifium here in Canada. We have a nice grid for you guys lined up, 20 drivers. About to take to a nice dry run around this circuit, Stars.
We certainly are. I know it's going to be a dry race, but I'm seeing some wet weather tyres out of Will Gibson's garage. So I'm getting a bit concerned by the Mercedes crew. I know they've selected the hards right at the end there, so thankfully the Mercedes aren't doing a Ferrari. As you know, Strifium, obviously being a big Ferrari supporter, on how good your master plans are. But needless to say, we see some tyre differentials amongst the grid today, and it's only going to be Captain Miner in the top 10 who's opting to go for that very aggressive strategy.
Yeah, 2 drivers out of the entirety of this grid opting for the red-rimmed soft compound tires. Now, Captain Miner in third position in the AlphaTauri on the opposite strategy of his teammate. They're starting 2 and 3. Polo Q, who had an unfortunate issue in the qualifying session, who was not able to get a run in, starting in 18th position. I do not know about this call here, Stars. Now, he's going to go on these soft compound tires. He has an entire sea of mediums ahead of him. Paula on the hards as well. He has Jack 5 behind him on the hards. We have Waffle on the mediums in 20th position on this grid. He'll bring out the rear. Of course, Stars, why don't you take us through this grid lineup?
Yeah, so obviously Will Gibson and P number 1, like we did mention, a great last lap there. Jimsy, the AlphaTauri, alongside his teammate, 2 and 3. Duke Kaboom on those medium compound tyres in 4th, Siffy 5, Bubba in 6th, Chiri 7th, Sidewinder in 8th, 9th for Simply for the Renault, and Turtle Rave rounds out the 10 on the medium compound tyres for the Haas. The Holtzman in the Alfa Romeo there, P number 11, Steph in P number 12 for the McLaren, and then Larkin 2 positions behind his teammate, P number 13, Spunny. The Ferrari driver, P number 14, Gauzy, 15th, Wordad in 16th, Paula. She starts on the hard compound tyres. Polo, like we did mention, on the softs. Going to be very interesting for him to be able to get through the grid. He's going to need some form of luck and maybe a bit of help. Jack 5, P number 19 in the Red Bull, as well as Waffle in the McLaren, who is starting on those medium compound tyres. And that is our grid for today's Strifium Marina Bay Street Circuit in downtown Singapore. Wow, this is going to be a very thrilling, demanding race for our drivers today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Demanding is the word. Very demanding. Another word I like to use in these broadcasts is unique, and I think we're just going to see one of those unique scenarios in this race. Of course, great potential for safety cars here around Singapore. We have now all the drivers lining up into their grid slot positions on the starting line. And of course, these lights are about to come on. The engines are revving. And here we go. Will Gibson on pole position. 3, 4, 5 red lights here around the Marina Bay Street Circuit. It's the Singapore Grand Prix. And we are away and we are racing. Off we go. Will Gibson into turn 1. Jimsy looking at him on the inside and nothing doing just yet. There's a Red Bull looking quite interestingly up the inside at Cheery here. And there's a VSC deployed. And I have to tell you, I'm not entirely sure why.
Yeah, Striffy, I couldn't see anything on my end here. Everything was pretty clean going through turn 1, turn 2. There was obviously some wheel-to-wheel contact there, but not too sure. But apparently we have 3 drivers now with 5-second time penalties. 2 for a collision and 1 which was sidewinder for ignoring yellow flags. But we are green flag racing again, and there is a gap, Striffium, and a huge one between P8 and P9.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. There's a lot of drivers in the top 5 right now looking quite tight, and one of them is Duke Kaboom on the rear of the Williams Siffy here. Under major threat. Duke was wheel-to-wheel with him. Now as we come into the sling, there's been an issue. A little bit of a disconnection here would appear coming out of Siffy's car. Babatundi with the look on the rear. And you can see that red X on his car, and that's something you just hate to see in these sessions, and we'll just hope to see him back. Stoltz and Steph now having an exchange, and Steph's gone through on the inside as Stoltz goes deep with Larkin, his teammate, now 13th position. 3 drivers with penalties on the board so far here. Sidewinder, Larkin, Jack 5, all with 5-second time penalties, and it would appear Gauzy might have dropped back. I'm not entirely sure if the timing tower is playing its games or not, but we're now just about to cross into the second lap of racing action here. We still have all 20 drivers on the grid with the exception of, I think, Siffy, who's had a disconnection.
Yeah, needless to say, Spunny got past Wordad there coming into turn 15, but we have a lot of drivers with front wing damage. Wordad, Waffle, Polo. Polo going for a dive on Siffy, didn't make it work. Got wing damage, unfortunately, so he's going to need to come into the pits and get that fixed, sorry. But yeah, currently I've got Cherry, which is all over the back of Bubba at the moment. Really just trying to look for that opportunity, but Cherry, here he comes. He actually touches the back of Bubba here with his overtake on it. Don't think he expected the closing speed to be that quick there. Unfortunately, I don't think he's picked up wing damage, but I mean, needless to say, you can't go bumping into the back of drivers.
Yeah, that was a very touch and go move there, and of course he's fortunate to retain that end plate or to retain any kind of full integrity, we'll say, of that front wing right now as he went into the rear of the Renault Civics, now back into the session. And
with Jack 5's had a spin. Jack 5's had a spin, Striffium. He came with Wordad as well, I think. So Wordad's been in all sorts of troubles at the start of this race.
Siffy now, I'm unsure if he's retaking control of his car. It does not appear so. The AI controlled car and Jack 5 having a little bit of a tango coming through the sling now, and Jack with that damage not going to be able to do much about this. Sidewinder on the rear of Cheery still keeping quite close to the Ferrari as Cheery continues his hunt for the Renault. Will Gibson leading this race as we're just making our way through into the penultimate turn to begin the third lap of racing. Here comes Will, and he's been sitting some consistent fastest laps, a 39.9, the most previous, and DRS has now been enabled, which will be good news for some, bad news for others.
Yeah, Will Gibson keeping it clean there. Obviously got at the out of DRS range. Captain Minor, though, soft compound tyres, hasn't made the moves early on. This is really going to affect his strategy moving forward into the race here, but I mean, hopefully he can figure something out. But we've got a big spread of drivers at the moment. We've had all those issues where a couple of drivers have had to come into the pits and change their front wing, so be interesting to see how these
Here comes Cheery. Ooh, he's sorry to interrupt you there, Stars. He had a real good look at Baba, but he did not pull the trigger. He holds on to wait for another opportunity.
Yeah, he's really closing on the Baba. He's obviously got the speed over him, or the pace I should say over him, Striff, but just hasn't been able to get that move done. But he's also got to be careful of Sidewinder right behind him. Sidewinder is also in this contention as well. Obviously, the gaps are starting to form throughout the pack here, obviously being such a technical circuit. One mistake really throws you out, but Jack 5's coming to the pits. He's put the medium compound tyres on and he's changed his front wing.
Yeah, it's a long race, a lot of opportunities, and I mentioned it earlier, there's always opportunities for safety cars, especially in a 31-lap race around a circuit like the Marina Bay Street Circuit here in Singapore. Baba still just holding off the Ferrari. Now gaps starting to form in the top 5. You can see Will Gibson nearly 2 seconds out of range of Jimsy. Captain Minor 1.1 dancing in and around on the rear of his teammate Duke. He's just shy in that 1 second range. He looks to be pushing now, and it's either he's pushing or Captain Minor's had a problem. It doesn't appear to be a problem. It just might be the soft compound tires starting to betray him versus those mediums. Steph, what's happened to Steph? He's gone round coming out of turn 21. He's going to try and recover here. Ghazi's going to move through by him. Spanini on the rear of Paula. Steph, you can see him moving into that pit lane now. Paula under threat from the Ferrari. I think there might be a move here into turn 1. On the outside, the Ferrari on the mediums. Paula doing what she can right now to hold off this prancing horse. On the inside now for the switchback. Here comes Spanini making a move on Paula as we switch to the coming through turn 3 here.
Yeah, Paula had to cut the corner there, unfortunately. I don't know who has DRS and who doesn't, because apparently on Paula's screen, on my screen, Paula doesn't have DRS, but it's coming right back into Spunny going into turn number 7 there. Can't get the move done, but Spunny obviously on those better compounded tires as Turtle Rave picks up a 3-second time penalty. Paula did everything she could to hold him off.
Yeah, it's a tight formation for 13th position right now. We're out on the rear. Then we look all the way over to Duke Kaboom in 4th, hunting down Captain Minor still. Not too far behind them. Babatunde and Shiri, they had an exchange as we were looking at the battle with the other Ferrari. And this has caused Shiri to drop off outside of DRS range. And this is going to bring Sidewinder into good positioning as he bumps the wall. And I have to say, he is extremely fortunate to be retaining that end plate on the front right, or excuse me, the front left as he came through that left-hand turn.
Yeah, no, he certainly is. Very easy to lose a wing here. Obviously has DRS on Chiri. Chiri doesn't have DRS on the driver ahead, but needless to say, simply goes around the outside of Turtle Rave going into turn number 1. A little wheel of, or bang of wheels, I should say, through turn 2. Still side by side through turn 3. Coming through turn 4 into turn number 5. Who's going to be the latest of the late breakers? They're both pretty much breaking at the same point, and it looks like Simply has gotten the move done because he also has DRS as well. So great battling there in the back there, but also Duke Kaboom has got the move done into P number 3 on Captain Minor.
Yeah, solid move for Duke Kaboom there. I imagine he just had a solid kick of that DRS to move himself ahead of Captain Minor into turn 7. We didn't get the full-blown view of it, but there's not much Captain Minor is going to be able to do when these medium runners really do start to catch up with him as those tires start to degrade, and you can just see the gap starting to form on the rear of Duke Kaboom. He's already dancing in and around that 1 second range, and they've only gone through 4 or 5 turns since it happened. Now as we come through turn 15, Turtle Rave still doing what he can to hunt down Simply. He is within around 7 to 6/10 right now, dancing around that range, coming into turn 16, a little bit later on the brakes than Simply, I find, but the exit, that's what he needs to find right now. He needs to find the exit to just inch closer to this Renault, and Simply without a penalty right now in comparison.
Yeah, Total Rave just trying to keep it clean. Simply looks like he might have a little bit more pace on Total Rave on the Haas drivers. Total Rave actually picks up another 3-second time penalty, so he's having a shocker 6 laps in. But I want to talk about the soft compound runner, Captain Minor. He's going to need to come into the pits very, very, very shortly. Those tires are pretty much done and dusted by now. The peak is over. So he's going to need to come in and maybe, I don't know, he's going to have to go to the 2-stop, I think. He's going to have to commit to it. Maybe go medium to the end here. Might have a bit of an advantage over the hard compound runners right at the end, but still, he's going to be needing to be lying at the end to make it worth it. But we do have Siffy, who's got past Wordad, because Wordad has come into the pits on the medium compound. So it looks like he's picked up some more wing damage. As you can see, he puts on the hard compound tires, as well as a new front wing.
Yeah, we're down with that early pit stop. We have another flag coming up here. What's happened? Yellow flag, Steph into the wall. And this is the second time we've seen him have an issue coming out of turn 21. And fortunately for him right now on these hard compound tires, he's just gotten onto these tires. He does not have any wing damage on the front end of that car. Wordad being passed by Waffle as he comes out of the pit lane. And now he's onto some fresh hards, and we'll just have to see how this plays out for him. Of course, we're 6 laps into this racing action. Turtle Rave now. Well, Bolts has gotten the better of him for 9th position. Turtle Rave starting to drop off here, and we have a yellow flag in Sector 1. Jack 5 with a retirement. And this has caused a virtual safety car.
AEST, okay. Alright, so Captain Miner needs to come to the pit lane right now. You can see he pretty much slammed on the brakes. He's going to come in. He's not going to lose as much time, obviously, if it was normal green flag racing. So this has helped him. This has helped him come back into the player things. But he's not the only one to the pit lane stripping. We've got Cheery. We also have Sidewinder on the medium compound tyres, both coming in. They're going to the hards.
Yeah, a lot of drivers coming in
to the end
here.
of the race.
A lot of drivers coming in here to try and take advantage of this right now. Captain Miner's jumped onto these medium compound tires. We see Sherry, he's switched onto those hards. Sidewinder, the hards. Very interesting calls out of these racers here.
I don't think that's the right call, Striffium. I think as DRS is back enabled, because we're back to green flag running, I don't think that's the right call going into the hards. They're going to be dead by the end of the race. They hopefully get another safety car to maybe go into the softs, but yeah, I don't think that's the right call there for those drivers.
Well, at the end of the day, they did get somewhat of a benefit from pitting under those VSC conditions, but we'll have to see if the hard compound tires give them what they need in the long run. See if any kind of other drama may unfold. Safety car, virtual safety car, or that capacity. Captain Miner, he came out behind Spanini here. Spanini 10.5 on the rear of Larkin. Larkin's in 7th position in the Alfa Romeo, of course, but the thing to talk about is Captain Miner on the fresh rubber, less than half a second the gap to the driver in 8th, and this is good for him because this will give him an opportunity to put some separation between him and the drivers behind him that also chose to come in and pit.
Yeah, it certainly will at the end of the day as Waffle picks up a 3-second time penalty. Yeah, Captain Miner, you know, he's just bringing up the temperatures into these medium compound tires at the moment. Obviously, being very aggressive on the curbs. I think he's going to wait for his time and probably just take over Speeny when he can, as Paula gets the move done on Chiri there for P number 11. But Captain Miner needs to clear Speeny and get into some clean, fresh air, and he needs to set some good qualifying times. As you can see, he's already got the overtaking gauge as he comes around turn number 23, DRS wide open, and look at that, as easy as you like, into P number 8. My God, what a move there for the AlphaTauri driver.
Yeah, not a lot Spanini has to say about that, of course. With the DRS, there's just not much you can do now. Jerry getting the move back ahead of Paula through turns 1 and 2.
Most drivers just trying to find their rhythm at the moment. Obviously, 8 laps in, this is the time where, you know, the concentrations are really starting to, degrade from the start of the race. Obviously, those levels of, you know, excitement and nervousness. This is the time where you've got to really push through that barrier. I know I do it a lot of times, Striff. I don't know about you, but this is, like we say it all the time, this is such a demanding circuit. You need to be on it 100% for 31 laps, and it's an ask. It's a very tough ask, especially you know, around being on a game, I mean, so to speak. And these drivers obviously doing a very good job. Obviously, Jack 5 lost it coming out of turn number 5 there, and it's so easy to do because you've got walls 1 meter to your left apart from. A Siffy just goes for a dive on Paul. I did not even see that, but yeah, into the braking zone of turn number 16. So yeah, hopefully these drivers keep the concentration levels up and manage to finish this race. We want to see as many drivers across the line.
Now we've got 19 left in it as we're just crossing that third of the way through. And now we have an exchange here as Will, Jimsy, Gibson and Jimsy, of course, the 2 drivers that started on the front row of this grid, fighting it out at the front. And we've got a yellow flag being thrown up here in sector 2 and 3. Who's this? Waffle into the wall. And there is a yellow flag there. He's getting that car rotated to try and get going again, but you can see a massive amount of debris came off the front end there. This is not good for the McLaren driver in the slightest, but see him come into the pit lane hopefully and get that all taken care of here shortly.
One thing I want to mention, Striff, is Will Gibson. I mean, he pulled out like a 2-second lead over Jimsy. Now it's 4 tenths. And the one thing I'm looking at the moment is Jimsy's on 60% ERS and Will Gibson's on 14. So maybe Jimsy's got a little bit more pace than Will Gibson. Maybe Will Gibson burn everything right at the start, try to be a hero and run away with it, because at the end of the day, he's understeering all through these 90-degree corners through sector 3, and Jimsy's all over the back of him. I think this could be a change for the lead going into turn number 1 if he takes it. He might not. There was a bit of understeer coming through turn number 22, but I mean, Jimsy's in a very, very comfortable position here. As you can see, that red flight flashing in Will Gibson's car, less than 10% ERS. So this is going to have to be a battle we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I agree with you here. We're coming into a couple of overtaking opportunities as we come through now. Turn 5, and here we have it. DRS in utilization. The battery as well, not massively. Do we see a lunge into turn 7? Nothing doing just yet, but you can see Will knows that he needs to worry about this Alpha Tower here massively.
He certainly does. He's closing the gap. Unfortunately, Jimsy's getting a lot of understeer around here. Obviously, being a street circuit, very hard airflow to get through the corners. As you can see, he's really struggling, losing a lot of time through the very technical aspect of the circuit. And we do have another yellow flag. Is this also another McLaren driver, Striffian?
I think it's actually... Did something happen between Steph and Polo Q here? Because they were quite close. It doesn't look like Polo has any damage. Steph does not have any visible damage. But it's clear that Steph in that McLaren has been struggling. He's now making his way into the pit lane here. He's having even an issue with that. Getting this car slowed down. Starting to think he might have come into this race with a wet setup here, Stars.
He might have, unfortunately. Needless to say, we've got a bit of a Steph. They retires in the pit lane, so obviously he's called it quits, unfortunately. But Jimsy gets the move done.
Not only has he, well, he hasn't gotten the move done. Will Gibson just struggled coming into the pit lane. He's driven right into the pit lane entry median here.
He's putting soft compound tires on. You're kidding.
Yeah, he needs a wing change. He's getting the softs on. This is lap 11. I haven't got a clue what this man's done now.
That's his race over and dusted. I'm calling it right now. You've heard it here first from the Australian Down Under. Will Gibson, he is out of contention of winning this race right now. He's gone onto the soft compound tyres, and my God, that is a mistake of the century.
Well, I'll tell you something else here. Waffleorian. I'm not sure if that was yellow due to him or if it was Steph coming out of the pit lane. Actually, I think it might have been Steph coming out of the pit lane after his retirement there. Will Gibson coming out here on the rear of Gazieg in 9th position. Captain Minor, 3-lap old mediums ahead of Will Gibson now. Well, he's in good position. Here goes Will. He's going to have the good traction of these softs for a few laps here. He might as well get the moves done on Gazieg, and he does. There he goes into 8th position.
Got some pretty high-intensity battles in this midfield. Obviously, you got the battle between Sidewinder Paula as well as Turtle Rave, and then obviously Will Gibson getting the move done on Gazieg on those fresh softs, but Chiri's also coming into the back of it, and Siffy's right there as well. So, I mean, all the way from 8th to about 14th.
Oh, Turtle Rave Paula. A drag race through the swing.
Gazieg came together through it.
Gazieg's waving at all of his friends as they come over the bridge.
Gazieg, that's unfortunate for the Williams driver there. Obviously, he'll probably be wanting to come into the pit lane and change what damage he has.
That's tough. That is very tough. Of course, Gazieg forming this division.
I mean, at the end of the day, he struggled to keep up with you, Striffim, and now he's struggling to keep up with these fellas. So I don't know what he can do. Maybe it's going to be America's Tier 3 division coming out. But needless to say, we have got some drivers coming into their pit stops right now for the hard compound tyres. So we've got Larkin, who's put on the fresh hards. So he's going to be going to the end now. This is a strategy which is the most viable, medium to hard, quickest on track So Larkin, all he has to do now is with everything which is going on in front of him, he just needs to set laps. And I think Larkin could be a bit of a dark horse. Unfortunately, he has that time penalty, which is, well, I mean, 2 time penalties, which is hovering over his head. But if he just puts in these laps, he could be in contention for something really good right towards the end.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Stars. I agree with you there. Just taking a look at this grid right now, everything pretty well spread out as these pit stops start to come through, and we'll see some overtaking in a few moments as the fresh rubber starts to come in. Larkin on these hards now has to hunt down a field with a lot of drivers on some older rubber. Paula 1.6 ahead. You can just see the rate of which Larkin is catching Paula right now on the fresher tires.
Yeah, certainly really coming into contention, and we'll be there very soon. But Jimsy, also our effective P1 driver at the moment, has pitted, and he is onto those hard compound tires as Duke Kaboom actually fits onto his hard compound tires as well. So looks like Jimsy will get that effective P1 back over Duke Kaboom, and with a bit of a margin as well. Looks like it's going to be about 4 or 5 seconds over Duke Kaboom. So definitely has a bit of leeway in his bank of things.
Yeah, that's going to be good for Duke Kaboom. Larkin right now, coming right now here. The rear of Paula. Do we see it into turn 1 here? He's looking. Ooh, a little bit of a lag there from Paula. Not sure if it was on her end or if it was on Larkin's end.
Yeah, I dare say Larkin's going to set it up nicely here. You can see opening up the corner as much as you can. Actually, he brakes kind of strangely, but needless to say, has a better exit. DRS wide open, overtaking Gage. Paula isn't using her battery, and there is a move for P number 11 for Larkin. So Clean Air now has got 4.3 seconds up the road, and picks up another 3-second time penalty for his troubles there. So there you go, get a move done, and nearly hit the wall as well. So Larkin really needs to put his head down and get his concentration cap on, because at the end of the day, he needs to move his way up this grid as effectively and as quickly as he can.
Yeah, that wasn't a good penalty to be picking up there. I don't think it was necessary to take as much curb, just in the fact that he had a solid run on Paula coming into that 7th turn there, that left-hander. Paula 12th position on the 12-lap old hards at the minute. We'll have to see what happens for the strategy call coming out of the Mercedes, with now Thultz, Larkin, both Alfa Romeos on the fresher hard compound tires. You can see Thultz in 10th position, 1.2 on the rear of Turtle Rave. Turtle Rave, 5-lap old hards for him. Will Gibson, a 39 flat. Of course, who'd have thought otherwise? He's running on the soft compound tires at the minute, but he's not going to be liking those tires at the end of this race, that's for sure. And he's going to have to come in again without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he's going to have to, Striff, and unfortunately, because he didn't extend his medium soft or his medium tyre stint, he's actually going to need to go into the hard, so he's actually going to be behind the likes of the Holtzman and whatnot, so he's going to be battling for points position at this end of the race. But the one person I'm really concerned about is Captain Miner here. Obviously on those 6-lap medium compound tyres, he needs to really make up some positions, or at least some ground on the track, because he's probably going to go to the mediums to finish this race, I dare say. So hopefully he can really close the gap, because at the end of the day, I think Jimsy is just pulling a gap on him.
Yeah, I think you're right there in Jimsy pulling that gap. One thing is Waffle. I think Waffle might be being shown the blue flag right now. Yes, he is. So he's going to need to get the heck out of Dodge here in just a second, as Captain Miner coming through behind him, and he's just going to pull off to the inside here. Neatly done there from Waffle. Good man to get out of the way.
Be careful. He's got Duke Kaboom right behind. He needs to get out of the way of him as well. So, and then he's also got the Mercedes of Will Gibson coming through as well. So yeah, it's not the great race for Waffle, as he nearly loses the back end coming out of turn number 23. He's actually got the DRS engaged with Will Gibson. Hey, nice work. Very good sportsmanship by there. Waffle lets Will Gibson through. So he's got a bit of breathing space now. He's got a bit of a gap behind. Obviously, Simply's coming to the pit lane. Actually loses rear end coming out of turn number 3, I believe, as well. But Simply has come in for those hard compound tyres to the end of the race.
Bolts now on the roof. Turtle Rave simply comes out of the pit lane here, simply just about within this fight. Simply now out in 10th position. Hard compound tires, of course, to the end of this, and it'll be great that he's got this DRS to bring him into Tholtz. And now Turtle Rave on the 7-lap old hards. He's really going to have to worry about all of these drivers, especially if Larkin's able to break down the gap to simply ahead and just bring himself into that train.
Yeah, it's very hard to overtake around Singapore. You've got the DRS straights to assist you on doing that, but yeah, it's certainly not the easiest track to overtake. While we have a second here, Stryfium, I don't know how you came here today, sir, but Marina Bay Street Circuit, downtown Singapore, like we mentioned, 20 kilometers from Changi Airport. I believe as well for most of the drives today, they actually flew to the Singapore Street Circuit today, and then got the shuttle bus actually to downtown Singapore. That is the word going around the talks in the MRL Discord at the moment. So good to see, obviously, we're doing that. But we have a retirement. Ooh. Waffle, unfortunately, tries to let some drivers through, and we have another virtual safety car.
That is a VSC deployment here, and he'll be getting the shuttle bus back early.
He certainly will, unfortunately for the McLaren driver. So get the showers on and get moving on to next week. Next week we've got an interesting race next week as well. So these drivers obviously got a bit of time. They've got a week to prepare for that one as well. As we do go back to green flag running, but yeah, Simply is all over the back of Holtzman, and Larkin has decided to join the party.
Duke Kaboom. With a nice move, getting it done on Captain Minor right now, and Will Gibson all over the rear of this action, and the Mercedes wants to get himself into these podium paying positions. Of course, he will have to potentially stop again. His strategy could be to just, hunt down the leader, use these softs, pull a gap, come in. But I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to pull that gap that he thinks he will with a move up the inside of turn 15 here on Captain Minor. Nothing doing just yet. Captain Minor just kind of brushing him off. Both drivers with DRS into 16. Will not making the move on the inside this time. Captain Minor a little deep though. Will Gibson on the inside with a lunge. He goes deep, massive lockup. Captain Minor looking back around the outside for the potential switchback, but nothing doing at the moment. Will put in a lot of degradation onto these softs.
Yeah, he certainly is. He needs to make up some moves. He needs to do something. Obviously be on a definitely not the alternative best strategy, but definitely an alternative strategy at that. We do have Larkin, who's still over the back of Simply, and Simply is closing onto Holtzman. So I dare say we're going to see some exchanges happening for P8, P9, and P10 very shortly.
Yeah, and Tholtz breaking down that gap to Sidewinder in 7th position. Sidewinder not too far off of Cheery, and he's crashed. He's crashed coming out of turn 23. That's on the pit straight, and what are we going to see as a result? Are we going to see a safety car in this race? We've seen VSCs, the Mercedes Paula, coming now. We can see Sidewinder facing us. All of these drivers now, that yellow flag still waving it. And we are gone back to green, no safety car. And I have to say
green flag racing, Singaporeans on the sidewall there, mate, getting the job done nice and quick. So good to see that out of the marshals today. No safety cars around here. Maybe it's too expensive to run, but needless to say, Simply is still closing the gap on Holtz, but hasn't been able to close it massively to be able to go for a dive as of yet. But he needs to do something, because these drivers up ahead of him, he's got an opportunity to jump them, the likes of Cheery and Bubba, who have got penalties at the moment, Stryfium.
Definitely. I agree with you, without a doubt. Take a look at now the run. Bolts 0.5 ahead of Simply. Really needs to make this move on Tholtz and break down that gap to Cheery. Will Gibson now, he's come in off the softs onto a set of mediums, and we'll see where he drops out here. into this grid. I have a feeling he's going to come out just in front of Cheery in the action behind him.
Yeah,
Cheery's going to
right
get him.
behind Churi.
Stoltz. Yeah, here we go. So he's going to come out in some battling, and that's not going to be good for him getting any closer to the front of this race because he'll be caught behind them. Their tire's really not that old.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Ironically, Gorzieg's last at the moment. So moving on, we have obviously the battles up ahead. So there's still Simply and Larkin who are closing on the back of Holtz, but it's yeah, it's certainly some tight battling going on.
Siffy now, he's trying to use a little bit of battery to just maintain himself with Wordad. Wordad on the older hards right now, but I've been watching Siffy really hammer down in trying to catch Wordad down this straight, and he's not using as much battery this time. He was pretty well dry the last time he had a crack into turn 7, and you can just see holding station at the minute. Turtle Rave into this pit lane. He's come out on some softs. Polo Q, the teammate of the Haas driver, he's come in behind him. He's getting off 15 lap old mediums, and he's going on to a new set of mediums. And he's also going to be serving a penalty, it would appear, or at the very least, they weren't prepared for him due to the double stack, so that's not good at all.
The American crew definitely not ready for their driver. Needless to say, we've seen that before. Hopefully they've fitted the medium compound tyres on tight enough. We don't want to see any retirements through turn 3 like we did see in Australia. But yeah, the Haas's and the Williams bringing up the rear of this grid. Like I said, ironically, very similar to real life racing. But still, the Holtzman is holding off Simply. We say it, we've been saying it every single lap, and Simply, there it is, picks up his 3-second time penalty, so that is going to affect him towards this end of the race here. Penalties are being a big thing. Obviously, you got Turtle Rave, so you're on 15 seconds worth of pen strip. 15 seconds around a street circuit, that is a lot. But Larkin, number 8, he's on 9 seconds, so he's going to need to do something because Will Gibson is on his tail.
Ooh, big lunge on the inside of Wordad there, and I have to say that was a day late and $1 short. He has unfortunately caused himself to spin around, getting caught up with Wordad there. I have to say that was just a late move, in my personal opinion, but of course, I'll leave that one to the stewards.
Yeah, not what you want to see, especially for these midfield battles. You want to see the clean racing like we see in the Americas. And Paula, actually, she goes into the wall just in front of Spanini. Spanini gets the move done. Sector 2, yellow flag. Paula, she's just waiting her time. There you go, just lets Siffy back through. Doesn't want to obviously get in the way of the faster moving car, but well, I mean, not full Red Wing damage, but definitely orange on the right-hand side.
Larkin now has just taken an additional 3 seconds. This puts him up to now 12 seconds. A bit of a slide coming out of him as Captain Minor comes in the pit lane. But Larkin, he was just overtaken by Will Gibson. Will Gibson on these medium compound tires now on the rear of Simply. He is going to be looking to make some more moves as Captain Minor jumps onto a fresh set of mediums. Will Gibson, the fastest car on track at 38.783, the fastest lap of the race now. Simply with a big lockup into turn 1 and 2. Will Gibson with a smooth move gets it done as he makes his way through sector 1. Simply not going to be happy about that, but he might just have the tires he needs at the end of the race in comparison to Will Gibson. We'll just have to see how it lands. Siffy now, he is going to make his way into 11th position as Wordad comes into the pit lane. Will Gibson showing great pace now on the rear of Stoltz.
Wordad really struggling at this street circuit here, but yes, Will Gibson has got the pace, but you know what he doesn't have, Striffham? He doesn't have ERS, and he's got nothing of it. Holt has got 30%, but he is all over the back of him. He actually goes for a move through the Singapore sling wall, just after it, I should say. Over the bridge, they go side by side here into the braking zone of turn number 15. He gets the move done. You don't see that every day, Striff. My God, what a move there from the Mercedes driver. And off he goes into the distance on those fresh mediums.
Yeah, I'm surprised he was allowed to take that move and keep it. It looked as though he went off curb, and he looks... Stoltz here, excuse me, Simply. Very tight exchange. Larkin looking for a window of opportunity here as well.
Yeah, Simply hit the back of Holtz. I don't know if he's picked up a bit of end plate damage there through turn number 16, but Larkin has come right back into it. The second driver in the Alfa Romeos, he's looking for the move on Simply. He wants to get this move done and wants to put the Alfa Romeos in P6 and P7 at this moment of the race. He's all over the back of him. I think it's going to happen very, very shortly because he looks like he's got more pace. Larkin, though, gets a lot of understeer going through the last corner. Both have got DRS engaged coming into the braking zone of turn number 1. He looks for it. He actually sends it right up the inside there. Very, very late move. I mean, he got it done without any contact, so good on him. But yeah, that's as risky as you like, Striff.
Yeah, definitely a risky move there, but it's evidently paid off as he's into 7th position. And a lot of these drivers really taking a lot of risks in this race, really making a lot of, late moves, as you said, trying to get things done. Larkin, that one definitely paid off. We saw this.
One driver I want to point out, Striff, who was 5 seconds back is Duke Kaboom. He's got within DRS range on Jimsy, but he has a 3-second time penalty. So maybe the hards are favouring Duke Kaboom's setup a little bit more than Jimsy.
There goes Turtle Rave on the inside of Ghazi. Later on the brakes is the Haas on the inside, and he gets that move cleanly done. He's on pressure softs, of course. And I'm going to have to agree with you there. Jimsy right now starting to drop a little bit in this AlphaTauri as Duke Kaboom has really turned up in that racing point right now. And I know
Jimsy
that one
needs
driver,
to keep it clean.
That's right, Jimsy needs to keep it clean, because if he steps into a 3-second time penalty, it's going to be even Stevens for the pair of these drivers. And I know Rutanius in Tier 3 will be thrilled to have a Racing Point victor in this race.
Will Gibson on the back of Chiri into turn number 1. He thought about it. He showed the nose. He thinks better of it, though. He actually gives him a little tap here, a little love tap. Opens up the corner there. Hopefully he doesn't get the move done. The stewards may be looking into that as well, because that has off-balanced Chiri's car, and he's got the move done into turn number 5 there for P4. So I don't know. That's not what you want to see for the sportsmanship out of their Mercedes driver.
Yeah, that's pretty well what we call a bump and go. And that's something you hate to see, but it is what it is, and we'll see if the stewards go and do
Simply
anything about
turns
that.
round. Simply loses it all by himself, and he comes into the...
Ooh, that was
luckily
tight,
he puts the
Captain.
brakes on.
Yeah, Captain there almost driving into him. And the yellow flag up through that section of circuit. Something we haven't seen in this race. We still have quite a bit of racing left, but something we haven't seen is a full safety car. We've got 16 drivers remaining, but we haven't seen the silver Mercedes safety car leave that pit lane.
We haven't today. It's only been VSCs today, so I mean, maybe budget costs through Formula 1, but needless to say, it has still been full of action-packed racing. These drivers are really giving it all, and you can tell because you are seeing those accidents. You are seeing the drivers lose the rear end and have spins by themselves. They're really trying to, cement their position in this new, Tier 2 grid. Obviously, a lot of drivers who are vying for this grid here. I know there's a couple of drivers I spoke to midweek. I know we've got a couple on the sideline are looking for those seats there. But needless to say, Duke Kaboom is closing in on the back of Jimsy, and he is forcing Jimsy very defensively as they come out of turn number 7 into turn number 8 here. He is really giving Jimsy a hard time.
Yeah, and this is really what Jim doesn't need, because with that pressure comes potential mistakes, and with those mistakes comes a potential penalty. And we talked about what that penalty would mean for Duke and how it would really affect Jim in equalizing their current status on track, given Duke's got that 3 seconds and he's got that 1 lap fresher set of rubber. He's within DRS range. He's keeping it in a really good distance right now. A little bit of a battery advantage for Duke by about 10%. Larkin, meanwhile, fight between teammates as Larkin and Tholtz within a second. Spanini.
Verdad
in sector 1, yeah, that yellow flag. Spanini on the rear of Siffy.
Coming out of turn number 3, unfortunately.
Tight battles happening on track. The battle for 10th position currently unfolding between the Ferrari and Williams, and we have Larkin and his teammate Tholtz fighting for 6 potentially, or maybe we even have some team tactics between the two drivers. Ghazi now coming into the pit lane for a fresh set of mediums, it would appear. And
yeah, Gauzy's been lapped once again, so needless to say, no surprises there. Goes into last position, but yeah, like you said, there are some very, very, very tight battles coming on. The tight for P number 1 as it's closing ever so slightly, or I should say ever so quickly at the moment here. Duke Kaboom is really just showing the nose on Jimsy here, and he's playing a very smart game, Striff. He's real, like you said, he's trying to force Jimsy into a mistake. He's just putting him in that pressure of that, that pressure zone where Jimsy's going like, oh no, is he going to attack now? And he's really having to go defensively, and he's probably not used to these sort of lines, especially around a street circuit. Very easy to hit a wall here.
yeah, if you go too hard here, push someone into a late braking scenario, you never know what you might find on the other side of that poke. You know, that other side of the big button press.
100%, just like the number 1, number 2 driver in the Alfa Romeo squad actually having exchanged to now Larkin. Like we mentioned, he's on a bit of a charge. He's definitely got the pace here today. I think he's got the pace over his teammate, so he's now got 4 seconds up the road to Chiri, so hopefully he can close that gap in, because he needs to pull something with all those time penalties he has.
Yeah, without a doubt, 12 seconds, not something you want to be holding at the end of a race where you have a tight gap to any driver. I mean, you don't want to be getting penalties in any capacity, let alone 12 seconds. That's 4 3-second time penalties, of course. Jim,
oh, and hello, Larkin.
Well, 15 seconds. You know, I sniped him and I wasn't even on board with him. It's very unfortunate. I'm very sorry for you, Larkin, when you may watch this. And of course, I'm going to just say it now. I mean, this has really been a fun broadcast with you, Stars. Here goes Jimsy and Duke with a battle through turn 7, and Duke making it look easy here. Nicely done from the racing point.
This isn't over for Jimsy, right?
No,
this isn't over. They've both got the same amount of ERS. He has DRS as well. So he's got the 3-second time penalty in his favor for Jimsy. So what he needs to do is he needs to stick with him. He needs to play the sensible game. There's only a handful of laps left now. Or just over a handful, depending on where you're from. So he's got the DRS, opens it up. Benini gets a 5-second into the speed lane, and we have a collision. Captain Minor and the Holtz, is it?
Well, it doesn't appear that anybody has damage.
Duke Kaboom loses it. And Jimsy goes over his rear tire. Has actually picked up wing damage because of it. And Duke Kaboom does a reset to track, I believe.
That is not good news. Duke Kaboom, Jimsy getting into some drama here on the final few laps. As you said, a handful of laps left to go in this race, and it would appear we've just opened up these drivers to some commentator cursing. Jim now, he's gonna have to carry on with that damage. Duke hunting him down, and Duke's still with that penalty, and he's got a bit of a weave going on the rear of Jim. Not too thrilled, maybe, is Duke. Not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, no, Duke Kaboom lost it out of turn number 16 all by himself. Jimsy didn't touch him one bit whatsoever. And then Jimsy had nowhere to go and actually ran over the back of his rear right tyre. And then Duke Kaboom does a reset to track. So I think Duke Kaboom's going to get a penalty by the stewards as he actually goes for the move into P number 1. Oh, he actually tries to, but actually backs out of it. They're still battling here through turn at number 7. As you can see on your screens right now. So Jimsy, all he needs to do is finish the race. If he finishes the race, I'm sure he's going to win it on a penalty count regardless.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be in agreement with you there. Tholtz, Captain Minor with an exchange as Captain Minor on the fresher medium compound tires makes his way into 7th position. 17.5 seconds the gap for him to hunt down Larkin in 6th, and that's quite the mountain to climb with just shy of 5 laps remaining.
Certainly is. It's going to be interesting to see what happens right towards the end of the race. I was just thinking Bubba might have a chance, but Bubba has 6 seconds worth of pen, so I think Bubba's out of this one as well, especially for the win.
Simply hunting down Tholtz for 8th. Siffy in 10th position. Really, 5.9 seconds the gap for the Williams in the final points position, and then he has a 37.7 second cushion behind him to hold on to that final points position while this battle for 8th unfolds in front of him. And now we have that battle for 1st, as you said earlier. Duke Kaboom gonna get through on Jimsy. That damage on Jimsy's car really playing a role.
Yeah, I think Duke Kaboom's just going to be pushing everything out right now. Jimsy just needs to stay within DRS and it'll be fine. But needless to say, Will Gibson is just in the zone of 3 seconds at the moment onto P number 3. And that actually puts him into position number 3 because Baba has obviously those 6-second time penalties and Will's only got 3. So Will's currently come back, even though with that big miss strategy call and going into the pit lane entry, well, he's actually come back into a podium place position.
Yeah, he's definitely making us eat our words here, but we'll have to see if he gets that potential win that he had
Simply
in his
all over the back of Holtz here, Striff.
Yeah, it's tight. Less than half a second between the two. DRS now going to come into play. 25% on the battery here. 8th position up for grabs.
Easy as you like. To the braking zone simply makes that one look very, very nice. Later on the brakes, Daniel Ricciardo style in the Renault when he was there. So simply into P number 8 now.
Yeah, very good work there. The gap already starting to form now for the Alfa Romeo. 7/10 and growing. Nearly a second already as we come through the sling, and it's there. Duke, Jimsy. Well, one thing to talk about is the fact that Duke, of course, after that issue with Jimsy and the damage on the front end, Duke has made up the gap he needs to take the win here. 3 seconds is the separation he needs for that penalty to become null and void for him. And we're on lap 28, and he has successfully done that, and he is continuing to grow that gap in lead of this race.
Yeah, he certainly is. Obviously, there's going to be some post-race investigations by the stewards, but I mean, if he pulls out 8 seconds in these last couple of laps, he could be on for a win still. So Jimsy, as much as he's struggling, he needs to really try and find some pace with this at least orange front right wing.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, as it is an exhibition series, we'll still see if we get that stewarding. We'll still see if we get the reporting and things like this. Of course, we want to see all of these drivers learning and getting better and improving on track and not necessarily getting into racing issues. And I'd say it's been a fun race to watch here so far. Larkin on the rear of Cheery, really trying to hunt down that Ferrari. Captain Miner 16, nearly 17 seconds away from this fight for P5, and he doesn't have any penalties. Larkin 15 seconds. So Captain Miner, if he's able to haul it, he might just bring himself within range to pick off Larkin here, because Larkin's accumulated such a large amount of time to be taken off at the end of this campaign. Will Gibson, he's made it in DRS range now of Baba. He's on notice with that Mercedes in 4th behind him now in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's closing in ever so slightly. Obviously, Holtz and Simply are having a little bit of a tussle at this moment in time, and Siffy actually joins the battle as well. So I have to keep an eye on that one. But Will Gibson, yes, he is flying at this stage. Obviously, he's secured for a P3 position currently on track if it all stays the same. But he's going to want to get P3 on track regardless. Yeah, Larkin has to keep it clean. Normally when I say that, they normally pick up a penalty straight away, but he keeps it clean, he might have a chance to hold on to P6. Obviously, Chiri should get the jump on him quite easily. So yeah, Captain Miner is closing the gap in on Chiri, but he's keeping... There's obviously that gap still between Larkin, but Captain Miner should have a preferential treatment in tyres towards the last couple of laps here.
We're on now the penultimate lap as Duke Kaboom comes through the first sector. And with that, we do not have a lot of running left. It'll, of course, be an early race finish for a few drivers here as separation has formed all the way down to 12th position of the lap drivers. And it's been a very dynamic, unique race. We haven't had any full safety cars, and we won't be getting one at this stage, of course, as it's very late now. Nothing but VSCs, and that's really played with a lot of difference in strategy. You can see all of the difference in tire, age on the timing tower. Gibson.
Yeah, obviously these gaps are starting to slowly close in. Obviously we saw it early on, very tight, but now at this point of the race, obviously Will is really all over the back of Bubba, and then we got that big midfield action for P9 and P10 as well. So the racing is certainly not over yet.
Everybody wanting to get a podium position here, and right now it's looking quite solidified for Duke and Jimsy, and now Will Gibson and Baba fighting it out for one more lap. There is a penalty differential. Will up the inside of 16, getting that move done. Werdad now meanwhile taking a 3-second time penalty further down the grid. Now Baba getting that move back through in sector 3, very neatly done. Will not going to be happy about that. Polo Q has just picked up a 5-second penalty for ignoring a blue flag, and I'm not sure who's behind him. Jim.
Dad had another spin, unfortunately, coming out of Pete. Number 20, Turtle Road, picks up 3-second time penalty. Larkin picks up another 3-second time penalty. That brings Captain Miner into play. Captain Miner on for a P6 finish. So Will Gibson, last lap of the race now. He's still over the
Larkin
back of Bubba. Bubba said no, thank you.
Larkin has spun coming out of turn 21 here. He has damage on the front left. He's going to come around the final turn. Werdad has retired the car in the pit lane at the end of the penultimate lap.
Fair bit of action going on, especially on this last lap. Captain Miner gets the move done onto Larkin for P number 6. Obviously, because of that damage on the Alfa Romeo car, the AlphaTauri gets past with ease.
Baba still holding on to third position. Very nicely done from him as Will Gibson hunts him down. I do believe that is Gazieg, the back marker driver, with DRS on the rear of the Mercedes, and Gazieg lapped in contention here, and he'll be catching the checkered flag early as Duke Kaboom is making his way through sector 3 to finish out this race with the win. Such a gap formed to Jimsy now. 11 seconds, and there go the fireworks. Duke Kaboom with the first win of the Americas Tier 2 development grid here, and Jimsy coming through turn 23 will take second position. Babatundi now with Will Gibson on the rear. Penalties for the pair of these drivers. Of course, Babatundi crosses it third on track. Will Gibson will take the podium after he gets Baba on. Well, Baba had 6 seconds of penalties. Will only had 3. Fury now crossing the line. 5th, Captain Miner coming out of turn 21 through 22. 23 now, the AlphaTauri driver, without a single penalty in this race, will take 6th position.
The likes of the Holtz, the Alfa Romeo drivers coming across the line. Holtz in P7, Larkin in P8. But I dare say he's going to drop down a fair bit simply. The Renault gets P number 8, and Siffy gets P number 9. Obviously, Sisbini in the Ferrari gets a quite sideways coming through the sector number 2 into sector 3. But I dare say that is pretty much going to be the grid. Sabini is our last car on track, but Duke Kaboom, obviously with the issues that he had with Jimsy, comes out on top, shows his class in the racing point. As you did mention before, Striff Retanius is going to be one happy chap.
Yeah, Retanius going to be thrilled about that. Of course, Retanius, the Tier 3 division leader. Now, if anyone is wondering, this was a race held on Monday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, May the 10th. And this is going to premiere for all of you at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All right, on May 11th. Between the Tier 3 and America's race. Tier 3 action, Singapore. America's action, Singapore. It's going to be a lot of fun. What a race this has been. And I'm going to check in just a few seconds here if we're going to get interviews for these races as well. But what a fantastic race and what a fantastic cast. Scars, Duke Kaboom with the win from 4th on this grid. Jimsy, he started in 2nd. He gets it done, finishing the race in 2nd after a potential race win was on the table. Gibson, he started this race on pole position. A very unique strategy call from him. 2 pit stops. He gets it onto the podium. All things said and done, from 1st back to 3rd, however, for him. Abatundi in 4th. The Canadian driver, Cherry Vander in 5th. Captain Miner 6th. Doltz in 7th. Simply in 8th. Siffy in Larkin rounding out the top 10. Panini, Paula, Polo Q, Gauzier, Turtle Rave, Wordad, Sidewinder, Wafflorian, Steph, and Jack 5 all with us for this one as well.
Yeah, what a race that one was. Like we mention every single week, these drivers are really giving it their all every single race. Obviously being one of probably, I dare say, the most demanding street circuit on the calendar. And my goodness, wow, what a race we did get to witness today, I should say. Obviously a lot of battles on track all around the grid, at the top and the middle, at the back. Unfortunately, we saw a couple of DNFs there. It is so hard to get traction. Obviously, these high curbs on the street circuit being so bumpy, so easy to lose a back end there, and we did see it numerous times. But needless to say, great effort there by all drivers today.
Yeah, definitely a great effort by all drivers today, and of course, that is going to wrap up action here for the Tier 2 Americas division. We are not going to be having interviews at this time. We might for the next race. But I will say that is it for us tonight. Now, at the time you're viewing this, the next race coming up is going to be the Americas Tier 1 division, and that will be, well, tonight, Tuesday, the 11th of May at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That'll be 2 a.m. for our friends in the UK, 2 a.m. British Summertime, and that'll be 3 a.m. for our friends in Central Europe. My name is Stripfium. Joining me for this was Stars, and thank you so much, Stars. What a cast, and big shout out to our great partners, Next Level Racing. You can check them out via the description in the, well, down below this video on their website for some amazing racing rigs. They have light rigs, which are fold away. You can fold away and, you know, get out of the way. Compactable, very nice. They have motion sims, wheel stands. They have really everything you need to take your racing to the next level. But that is it for me. Anything for the cast before we head out, Stars?
Just great effort by all drivers today. Great to see that. Really trying to give it all their all today, obviously being our first week. So hope to see everybody else back out on the track for the second week for the Americas Tier 2 action, and can't wait to be back in here with you, Striffium, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a fantastic evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you're viewing. See you next time.
See you guys. Yeah.